I'm joined today by someone who's flown quite a long way to see us, all the way from Canada. Huge name in the world of combat sports, from the UFC, AFC, King of the Cage, and now a new career highlight. He's joining Be Bad. It's Tim, the Thrashing Machine Hague. How are we doing, Tim?
Good, thank you. First things first, I just wanted to say a huge thank you to all my fans and supporters in Canada and worldwide. Thank you to my sponsor, Royal Empire Jewelry. And also, I have to say hi to my little boy. He gave me this card on my birthday on May 9th. And he wrote, "Happy birthday, Dad." So, hi, Brady. I love you lots.
That's just about choked me up, that. You may be a fighter in the ring, but it shows you that you're a family man at heart, which I think is always good.
Yes, sir.
First of all, a lot of people wouldn't sort of think of this, but how does a kindergarten teacher end up fighting in the UFC and now in Be Bad?
Well, I was always a rough kid growing up. I never got into too much trouble, but when I played combat sports or any sports in general, I liked hitting, I liked body contact, and I was going to University of Alberta to get my teaching degree, working at a machine shop, and one of the guys that was doing deliveries there sized me up and said, we train Tuesday and Thursday nights, mixed martial arts. Would you like to come train? And I started training, and then 8 months later I had my first fight, and I guess the rest is history.
Yeah. Do you miss the teaching sort of side of things?
I do miss teaching quite a lot, but that's why I've gotten into coaching at Black Sheep MMA Gym. I'm one of the head coaches there now, and when I'm finished fighting, I plan on coaching for a long time.
Excellent. I think you'll get a lot of what? You'll get a lot from that, as you do from fighting. Your MMA debut back in 2006 for King of the Cage in Canada. Your first fight, you took a win by submission. That must have been an amazing thing, your first ever fight.
Yeah, my first ever fight it's almost an out-of-body experience. You walk to the cage and the fans are cheering and your head's just in another world. You don't really realize what's going on until it's over, maybe a couple weeks after. But I remember being so tired that I thought I was going to die. And in the second round, I said to myself, I can't go on fighting, I've got to finish this guy. So I just grabbed him around the neck and threw him into the cage and locked up a guillotine choke. And when he tapped, I didn't even celebrate. I just kind of walked to my corner real slow because I was exhausted.
Sort of job done sort of thing. But
pretty much.
I think a lot of people don't think about it, but it's really that's a job for you, isn't it?
Yeah, fighting is strictly business. I don't go out on the streets looking for trouble. I don't teach my son to go looking for trouble. I just, my opponent signs a contract, so I go in there and I get the job done, and it's all business, and we all get paid in the end.
Well, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. From there, you went on to be victorious in your next 3 bouts, and I think quite amazingly, on your 5th bout, you ended up, just checking my notes here, because you've achieved so much, you ended up the King of the Cage Canadian Heavyweight Champion after only 5 fights. That must be something that's amazing.
Yeah, it was a vacant belt. Myself and Adriano Bernardo, we fought for a vacant title. Ken Kupsch with King of the Cage was great. He's always been great to deal with. And I went on to have 11 fights for King of the Cage now, and I haven't ever lost the belt. So that's why I bring it with me today. Yep. Nobody took that title from me, so I still feel like I'm the King of the Cage.
Well, maybe not. I was going to challenge you at the end of this, but no, I'm joking, Tim. Don't worry about it. You picked up a loss by split decision with Pentovic, but you very soon avenged that by taking a win against him with a unanimous decision before you moved into the UFC. Was that something that was important to you, to unfinished business before you moved up?
Yeah, the win over Petkovic was a defining moment in my career, and I believe it showed the UFC that I was ready for the next step in my career. And avenging that only loss was big for me, because I remember the first time we fought, I was getting paid a certain amount, and it doubled if I won. And taking that first loss, I remember sitting in the dressing room with my ex-wife at the time. I was sitting there crying, saying that we really could have used that money for my family. So I didn't like losing after that, and I went on to win 5 more in a row.
That's something, talking to you this morning, that's something I particularly like about you. A lot of people would say they didn't like taking a loss for the ego or I'm not unbeaten anymore. But you, it's all about family values.
Yeah, that's the whole reason I fight, is to provide my son a better life, and competing is what I like to do. There's nothing I'd rather do than compete. So for this point in my life, I'm just going to compete for a while more.
Yeah. You broke on the UFC scene, UFC 98, and by God, you did very well against Pat Barry, who was known for kickboxing at the time. I believe you took him out in a choke and won. First ever fight in the UFC. That must have been a major point in your life.
Yeah, that was a huge win for me, and I was very emotional after the fight, because against Pekovic, you could see that I had trouble defending his leg kicks. Pat Barry had just beaten Dan Evanson by leg kick, so I knew what I was being brought there for. I was being brought to be a part of Pat Barry's highlight reel, and beating him really made a statement, not just to myself, but to everybody else. So it was an emotional victory for me.
So Pat Barry's now part of Tim Hague's highlight reel then?
I suppose.
In 2009, you fought Todd Duff, unfortunately lost by KO. It was classed as the fastest ever KO in UFC in just 7 seconds. How did that feel? Was that a low point for you, or?
You know what? As much as the Pat Barry fight was a defining moment in my career, losing to Duffy was. My marriage was on the rocks at the time. I was sleeping in the basement in my own house, and you know, I was ready for the fight. I was in shape. I was ready, and you know, God gave me that victory against Pat Barry and put me on top of the world.
Yeah.
And then He put me back in check and took it all away when I lost to Duffy. And ever since then, my career has been a bit of a roller coaster, bouncing around. But over the past couple of years, I've gotten my head back in the game, and now I have 4 knockout victories in a row.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm back on top. I'm in shape. I'm in probably the best shape I've ever been. Now I'm ready for a big challenge.
You've certainly got an impressive record. When I've been doing some research, I think it was 120, lost 9.
Yeah, I lost 9, but I've only ever been stopped twice, by knockout. I've taken a couple body shots and lost, but never been submitted in 29 fights. And you know, I saw the term bare knuckle boxing, and I jumped all over the opportunity. I think it's going to be the next big thing in combat sports.
I massively agree with you there. I mean, that sort of record, I mean, you're fighting the best in the world, the biggest stage in the world. So, I mean, there's certainly no sort of shame in that. It's an amazing record. I say the biggest sort of fight arena in the world, that's obviously until you've joined B-Bad. If I don't say that, then Joe will actually kill us. After UFC 109, Joe Rogan, he was quoted even when you lost on a decision as the worst decision he's ever seen in his whole life.
Yeah, well, first of all, you mentioned Joe Brown there. I was hearing before when I was in Canada, I heard, you know, Joe Brown's a really handsome looking devil, but I showed up and I have to say that you're much more good looking than he is.
Well, and I was just thinking you were a nice, sensible, intelligent guy as well, but never mind.
In regards to the Chris Tuscherer fight, Chris Tuscherer, he was a hard fight, and I wasn't in as good a shape as I should have been for that fight, but if you watch the fight, you can easily see that I won. The first 2 rounds were a bit of a stalemate, and in the 3rd round, I whipped his ass. So, you know, on paper, I lost the fight, but in my mind, that was a victory for me.
Yeah, I mean, when I was doing the research and I read that, straight away I thought, oh yeah, of course it was a bad decision. And I watched it on YouTube, and I would agree. I think you definitely had that, definitely, with no question.
Yeah, you know, it is what it is, and I can't dwell on it, but I felt like I got the victory in that fight, so maybe I'm 21-8.
After that, you were released from the UFC. How did that feel, sort of being in one of the biggest fight arenas in the world, and then sort of coming out of it?
Well, I knew I had more work to do, so I went back to Edmonton and I accepted a fight in the AFC, and I was getting ready for that. And, you know, everything was going good. We had our weigh-ins, and the night of the fight, I was driving to the venue, and I got a call from the promoter saying, oh, your opponent fell ill. He doesn't want to fight you now. So I said, well, there's not much I can do. So I just went home and, you know, I started to prepare for my next opportunity, and the UFC called me up and said they have a short notice fight against Joey Beltran.
Yeah.
So I accepted and went there, out of shape again, lost another close decision. And when they released me that time, I was considering retirement.
Yeah. I read an article, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but a good friend of yours who also sort of trains within MMA. You went off with him for a while to sort, I think it was quoted as saying to find yourself and do some more training. And how was that a sort of a good experience in life? Do you think you learned a lot from that?
Yeah, I learned a lot from you know, just trying to redefine my career and finding out who I was. So, you know, that was important for me to do that.
Yeah. However, there was no keeping the thrashing machine down, as I think everybody knows. In the Ultimate Fighter season 10, you KO'd Zach Jensen in the first round, followed up straight away by another win by KO, again in the first round, by UFC veteran Travis Wolff. That must have been a great feeling to sort of return to form, was it?
Yeah, I didn't actually compete on the Ultimate Fighter show, but Zach Jensen was one of the guys that was on that show. And if I wanted to get back to the UFC, I knew that I had to do something special. So I asked Moyne and Harvey if I could fight Zach Jensen. So they brought him in for me to fight him, and I got the knockout. And the same thing with Travis, I could beat him. And besides my coach Kyle Cardinal, I might have been the only person in Edmonton that thought I could beat him. You know, I had training partners saying, Travis View's too good of a wrestler. He's going to take you down. He's going to beat you up, you know. And I just told them, you know, it's an MMA fight. It's not a wrestling match, so let's do it.
Yeah. It's when we're talking about records there, you must be amazingly proud of the record that you've got.
I am proud of it. Looking back on things, I wish I would have trained a little harder for a few of the fights or had a different game plan, but nobody's perfect. And, you know, 20-9 record now with my last 4 fights ending in a knockout. I'm proud of where I am today. Yeah, well, I've come a long way.
I think I'll agree with you. It's actually 21-8.
Yeah.
Big news sort of around the world this year, especially in Canada, over here in the UK as well. You've decided to take up a real man sport with BBAD, BKB. Right. I was a little bit worried about saying that, a real man sport. The look in your eye there sort of scared us a little bit. What's made you want to move into bare knuckle, and why BBAD?
Well, first of all, I'll say that any man who competes in any type of combat sport is a real man. I give any man in that regard respect. You know, I knocked out my last opponent in 6 seconds, and I wanted a big challenge. So my sponsor, Royal Empire Jewelry, had been doing a little bit of work with BBAD.
Yeah.
So I looked them up on Facebook, and I started talking to Joe Brown, and I just made the challenge after I knocked out my last opponent there, Tanner Boser. I wrote on Joe Brown's wall on Facebook, I said, I'm challenging your champion. Are you guys going to accept? I did it in a respectful manner, because that's how it should be done. And within a few hours, Joe had written me back and said, yeah, Michael Ferry accepts the challenge. You know, let's do some business. So yeah. I'm here today to promote the fight. And it's a big challenge for me. It's a big challenge for Michael. And that's what I look forward to.
So I remember seeing that sort of post on Joe's wall, and as you say, it was very respectful. There's a lot of fighters these days that sort of bad mouth other fighters when they're trying to call them out. And personally, I think it's a disgrace, but it seems to be all about sort of respect with you. Is that right?
Yeah, you know, like you see a lot of these press conferences released online or on TV, and the fighters, you know, they do the face-off. You know, you stand up next to the man and you do a face-off because it's good for the press, it's good for media. And then these fighters start shoving each other. And it's like, come on, you don't get paid. You don't get paid for a press conference. Yeah. Like, let's fight in the ring. Let's settle it in the ring, and then after we're done, we'll shake hands and we'll go for a beer. Exactly.
I was just thinking there when you mentioned the face-offs, if I was to have a face-off with you, I think I'd have to stand on a chair. You're certainly a big guy. As we say, you've made the challenge to Michael Ferry, who's the BBAD heavyweight champ. This is going to be for a Commonwealth belt. Do you feel that you're ready for this?
You know what? We're going to find out in September if I'm ready for it. Until then, we can just all get excited about it and make sure everyone buys the pay-per-view, because I'm going to make sure that people get their money's worth.
The look in your eyes, I think, there says you will. I mean, it's certainly no mean feat if you're going to go in to a new sport. You've challenged the champ, and you seem ready for it.
Mentally, I'm ready. That's the biggest thing for me. Some fights I've gone into, I haven't been mentally prepared. Yeah. But I can tell you right now that I'm already mentally prepared for this one. Mm-hmm. The biggest fight we'll always have is the fight within ourselves, and I'm on top of that right now.
Yeah. I think that's got to be the key. I mean, I know Michael quite well, and there's no way I'd want to get in between the two of you. Like I was saying earlier, it would be like being in between two tanks, only that you move a lot quicker. You've obviously you've came to be bad. You're an intelligent guy. You'll have done your research. Why in particular was it be bad rather than any of the sort of smaller promotions that you looked for?
Well, eventually I want to bring the sport to Canada. And if I'm going to do that, it needs to be a professional sport. It needs to have regulations, rules, medical attendance. Yeah. You know, one of the big things that I really appreciate about BBAD is that they're giving the fighters medical coverage after the fact, which is huge. You know, I haven't had that before. So BBAD's just the most professional bare knuckle boxing organization out there, and that's why I'm here today. Yeah,
I mean, the medical care is second to none. So the Chief Medical Officer, Bill Ellis, I mean, there's no way you would even be able to leave the venue if you even thought for a second there was something wrong. But I think the difference is he really does actually care as well. And I think that's a great thing, is the sort of medical care around there.
Yeah, you know, anything you do in life, you have to, if you want to do it properly, you have to care about it. So yeah. I appreciate that. It's a big thing for me. Obviously,
I mean, all around the world and in the UK, I mean, bare knuckle boxing is one of the oldest sports, but it's been gone for a long time. BBAD have been working quite hard to try and make it mainstream. So is that something that you've seen as well, or?
Yeah, you know, moving from the square bale pit to the ring, having a defined list of rules, things like that are what's going to allow bare knuckle boxing to become a professional sport. And for those that are going to argue that it's too brutal, the injuries are too much, that's not true. The injuries that you can sustain, chronic injuries you can sustain from wearing gloves deaden the blow, so you can sustain more blows to the head when you wear gloves. Yeah. In bare knuckle boxing, if you take one blow to the head, you're probably going to go down in pain, you know, but the injury won't be as bad. In MMA or boxing, you can take 10 shots to the head. Yeah. That's repetitive head trauma. That leads to pugilistic dementia. So I'd say it's a safer sport. You know, MMA, you can choke a man unconscious. He goes to sleep. In bare knuckle boxing, it's just hands. You're just throwing hands. I grew up scrapping, so I'm not scared. You know, it's like, let's get it on. Yeah.
You're totally right there on the sort of safety aspects. I've been doing a little bit of research recently in looking at the sort of long-term effects in pugilistic dementia, and there's also a school of thought from a lot of medics that the actual spread of the glove, the way that can affect the brain, is actually worse with the knuckle being smaller. So it's nice to speak to somebody that's heard of that, but it is very, very well documented all around the world that it is actually a safer sport than glove boxing.
Yeah, I understand that. You know, it's in our instinct to fight for survival. Yeah. So why not make it a professional sport where everyone can enjoy it?
Exactly. Do you know much about Michael Ferry, the BBAD champion at the moment?
I know. I've studied his tapes. I know what Michael's good at. I know what he's not good at, and I'm formulating a game plan around that. Yeah. And you know, I'm going to bring that to England in September and put on a great show for the fans. And that's what it's all about for me. Yeah.
If you're watching Michael, no, he won't tell us his game plan. I've already tried. In his last fight, in Michael Ferry's last fight, when he lifted the British title, he used sort of really immense speed and power, which I think is quite unusual for somebody his size, or again in your size as a heavyweight, over Craig Amor to defeat him in 8 seconds. I mean, Craig's a massively experienced fighter as well. Do you think with the disciplines that you've fought in before, do you think you'll be able to sort of match the hand speed that he's got?
You know, I'd say Michael's greatest attribute is his speed, but you know, people have always told me that I'm incredibly agile and incredibly fast for a big man. So that's why this fight's going to be spectacular. It's going to be an astonishing looking fight for the fans. It's going to be two heavyweights that are around 250 pounds, 18 or 19 stone, somewhere in there. And we're going to be fighting like 180-pound fighters. So it's going to be fireworks. It's going to be dynamite, and the fans are really going to enjoy the explosion.
I think it looks sort of size-wise, it looks like a great matchup. I mean, I've only met you for the first time this morning, but you and Michael are both sort of similar builds, similar heights. I think they'll be absolutely explosive, to be honest. I really do.
Yeah, I'm working on getting faster. I feel like I have to catch up to Michael a little bit. So, Michael, you better keep getting faster too, because I'm coming for you.
I don't quite know what to say to that. Looking at your record to date, which we've talked about, it's amazingly well. Obviously, you do a lot more than just sort of throw punches or box. Do you think, sort of with that in mind, I mean, you've competed in all kinds of in MMA. Do you think punching is really your best discipline?
Over the years, I've developed, you know, people say you either have knockout power or you don't, but I really believe that over the past few years, I've really developed my knockout power, you know, throwing punches differently than I used to. And I'm not going to say how I did it, but I throw a little differently than I have in the past. And, you know, now when I fight and I land a punch, I'm breaking people's orbital bones, I'm breaking their jaw, you know, I do some damage. So I'm ready for a bigger challenge now.
That's it. I think I saw on your Facebook page that you had picked up on a couple of interviews that I've done with Michael. I've gotten to know him quite well since then, and he is, I count him as a bit of a friend now. He's a really nice, sort of kind-hearted, respectful family man. All of that sort of changes a little bit in the ring. Personally, I think you must be absolutely mad challenging him.
Well, a lot of people will say I'm mad challenging a bare-knuckle champion, but that's going to bring us viewers, and you know.
Yeah.
I'm not scared of the challenge. I look forward to the challenge, and that's where I think I'm different from a lot of people. A lot of people would be scared to do this, but I'm not scared. I'm fighting for the right reasons. I'm fighting to give my son a better life. So with that first and foremost in my mind, it's just a fight.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not scared of any fight. I'm not scared of any man, and I'm just excited to show the fans that and put on a great show.
Well, until today, I would have said Michael Ferry's the only one I'm frightened of, but I met you now, and I'm not going to cross you either. Obviously, you've got a huge fan base all the way around the world, UK included. Have you got any sort of message or anything you'd like to say to your UK fans?
To the UK fans, I just wanted to say I really hope you enjoy the show. Thank you very much for welcoming me into the country. You know, everyone here has been lovely to deal with since I landed a couple days ago, and nothing but respect and love from Canada. You know, I'm a humble guy, so I don't know what else to say, but thank you very much for the hospitality, and I'm going to put on a show for everybody.
I've been led to believe that a friend of mine, Andy Juby, took you for good old-fashioned cod and chips in England last night. How did you find that?
Oh, the fish and chips here are lovely. You know, I'm a seafood fanatic, so.
I've been led to believe as well that a friend of mine, Andy Juby, took you for good old-fashioned cod and chips in England last night. How did you find that?
Well, eating fish and chips from England, straight from England, is on my bucket list. I'm a big-time seafood fanatic, so it's definitely a pleasure and something that I can tell my son about when he's older and understands that sort of thing.
Yeah. I'm a bit of a seafood fan myself. People are going to crucify us for this, but I've been on a seafood diet of late, seafood and eat it. Yes, I do appreciate you laughing, because I know that wasn't funny, but you know, thank you for humouring us. Can you sum up in a sentence, be bad?
In a sentence? That's a good question. I'll say this. Be Bad is the most professional and respectful organization I've ever dealt with, and it's a true honor to be a part of what BBAT is doing worldwide.
That's fantastic. Last but not least, and you're going to hate us for this, but I always ask this question. Can you call your fight in September with Michael? How do you think it'll play out?
I'm a realist, so I always consider all scenarios, but I'm not coming here to lose. I'm not coming here to take a fall for no man. So I'm going to knock Michael Ferry out, and I'll say I'll do it in the first round.
Okay. Best of luck with that. I'm a little bit bollocks. As we talked about, sort of bare knuckle boxing's come to the forefront thanks to BBAT. You're the first professional athlete that's crossed over. Do you think that'll sort of pave the way for others in the future?
I hope that it paves the way for other fighters. You know, BBAT has a structure where they're gonna be able to pay the fighters a little bit better, which obviously, you know, that's what the fighters want.
Yeah.
And you know, being the first fighter to cross over is monumental for me, and you know, it'll leave a legacy for my son. You know, I'm here to make history.
Yeah. And I think you're going to do that. I mean, hopefully a lot of other people will follow, and we're going to end on a fantastic sort of competition. Obviously, this fight as well, and BBAT fights are going to actually be sanctioned by a sanctioning body, the WBKBC. Is that something that's important to you?
Yeah, of course. It makes sure everything is legal, having everything sanctioned. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't sanctioned. So, you know, that's going to allow me future opportunities, and I really hope that I can get this sport legalized in Alberta. Yeah. And I'll have to speak with Pat Reed on that. You know, Pat's a friend of mine, and he's a smart man. So, you know, this is a huge opportunity, and I'm gonna do my best to get it legalized in Alberta and hopefully the rest of Canada. But I'm in England now, and I'm going to do my scrapping in England in September.
I think it's a really good thing for the sport, the sanctioning body. I mean, I've been doing a little bit of research on them before today, and they're inviting all fighters to register with them, so they can record all the fight details, rankings, and things like that. But crucially, they're not actually charging them for membership, which I think it just shows it's all about the sport, really.
Yeah, that's huge. In Alberta, in Canada, we have to pay licensing fees, and you know, that is what it is. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. You know, they have to make their money as well. But having the commission over here is not charging the fighters is just awesome for all of us.
That's it, and which is strange because normally you've got to pay for licensing for everything in the UK, especially TV.